ní last week the last sọ̀rọ̀ yẹn last week last sọ̀rọ̀ yẹn so Èdùmàrè á jẹ́ kó rí bá a ṣe fẹ́. Mo ṣèbẹ̀ yín ajúnilọ́ o, mo ṣèbẹ̀ yín tẹ́wà pẹ̀lú wa lónìí o, ajúbẹ̀ ẹ̀yin bàbá ẹ̀yin ìyá àṣèbá o, ire adé ayọ̀ adé. So who do we have? Let's see. So let's start getting set in. Let's start getting started. You get me? Let's start getting started. So I believe it looks like we've got Alkaline on deck. Send you a request.
Ẹ káàsán.
Ẹ káàsán, bàbá mi Alkaline, how are you?
Adúpẹ́, Erico.
Dáadáa ni, ọpẹ́ ni f'Ẹlẹ́dùmarè. Good to hear from you. Good to hear from you. How's your week?
It's been good, bro. Been busy, but you know.
Yeah.
Have to get through it.
That's the spirit.
Yeah.
That's the spirit. As I say, you've got to go through it to get through it, right?
Exactly.
Go through it to get through it, man. Yeah, good to have you here with us today. So we're in module 10 and we are exploring what? We are exploring more numbers. We've the last couple of modules have been about numbers, and I asked at the ending of last lecture, I said, do we want to spend a bit more time on the numbers? Because obviously the earlier part of the course was focused on what? On the alphabet, on building sentences, on alphabet sentences, as well as the speech, learning the speech, learning the language. We were more focused on that. But but the last couple of lectures have been more around, okay, numbers. Can we address more numbering? And it seems to be to have done well. Like, it's been well received, and I've been quite impressed to see how quickly people have been able to get up to speed with that. So ọpẹ́ ni f'Olódùmarè pé ètò yìí ń lọ bá ṣe fẹ́, á rí bá ṣe fẹ́ lágbára Èdùmàrè, àníṣe lásán, a máa ṣe é ní àṣeyè, àṣeyọrí, àṣe ìṣẹ́gun. Ire adé ayọ̀ adé, ire adé ayọ̀ adé, á rí bá ṣe fẹ́. So yeah, in the last lecture we were looking at what? We were looking at more around. We were looking at what? We were looking around. I think we did 1 to 200, didn't we? We did 1 to 200.
Yeah.
In the last lecture, but in this one, I think we're going to continue from 200 onwards. We're going to continue from 200 onwards. And in the last lecture, we also explore the structure of the numbers. I explained the philosophical aspect of it in terms of how the Yoruba numbering system has evolved. I was able to explain that, because telling somebody something it is so is not good enough. Sometimes it's good to explain the background. It's good to explain the evolution. Why is it so? Why is it so? We were also able to touch on that. Made references to the Yoruba culture and the fact that our ancestors were very logical people. These were very intelligent people, and they always weave an element of intelligence into all aspects of the Yoruba tradition. It was very much scientific. So I made references to that, and I made references to some to the market experience, to the market realities of the Yoruba culture, how in the Yoruba market, I made references to how it differs to the English market environment, whereby all items are labeled. In the Yoruba culture, in the market environment, people have, the price that you pay for a good obviously is governed by the value that the seller attributes to that good, but also it's also about how how you're able, how much you're able, how much the buyer is able to negotiate. Okay, it's also governed by how much the buyer is able to negotiate. You know, it's you have to have a bit of a personality to do well in the typical Yoruba market. You have to be able to negotiate. You have to be able to haggle. You have to, you have to bring some. You can't be mindless. You have to bring a bit of sense to event. And the price that you pay for something for a good could be remarkably different from one person to another, based on how well they are able to negotiate. Okay, so you don't get what you deserve, you get what you can negotiate. So that's the mode. That's basically the Yoruba market experience. Hence why the mastering of numbers, understanding your numbers, being able to add up without having to write something down, without having to get the calculator out, is something that's very, very important, because ultimately it shows competence, it shows experience. If you're in a market, you're pricing goods, or you are negotiating, and in the process of the negotiation, if you have to take a pause and say, oh, let me whip out my calculator, or let me count my hands and feet. You know what I'm saying? If you have to count your hands and feet, if you have to bring out a pen and a paper, you are already losing credibility, because you are already signaling to the very wise and very cunning trader or seller that you're not about that life. You know what I'm saying? You're signaling to them that, oh, this person is a bit of a rookie. You're not that experienced. So the price that they put on the good that you are pricing, that you're after, is going to be steep in comparison to somebody that has a control and a commanding of their numbers, of their addition, the subtraction, the multiplication, and the division. So that is those are the kind of environments we are in which the Yoruba numbering system has evolved. And we can see a lot of that in the way that we manage numbers, in the way that we represent numbers, or that mind engagement and being able to engage the mind is a big element of that. It's a big element of that. So yeah, so basically that's what we're going to be touching on today. We're going to be going through that in detail very shortly. Okay? We're going to be going through that in detail very shortly. Okay, let's pull the details up on the screen. I believe I've got that already. So yeah, so basically now we're going to be diving into 200. In the last section we did 1 to 100. I gave a lot of references. But basically how Yoruba numbers work. Yoruba numbers operate on two levels: the lexical name, traditional spoken word level, as well as the structural level. Okay, it operates on two levels. Both are correct and both are complementary. Okay, anything, especially this is more evident when you start getting into the hundreds. It becomes a lot more it becomes more evident. So if we're looking at number 300, for instance, which is Odorun. If you remember, 200 was Ìgbà, 300 is Odurun. Okay, if you consider that number, for instance, it's basically 300. That's the actual number. If number 300, sorry, are you able to see the screen properly, or do I need to let me make an adjustment actually? How's it now?
If you could raise it a bit.
Could be better, innit?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, let's do it like this. How about now? Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so yeah. So yeah, as I was saying, so Odurun is 300. But if you look at it in structural form, based on the structure that we were working with last week, 300 could also be called Ọgọ́rùn lé nígba. Ọgọ́rùn lé nígba. Because we know Ọgọ́rùn is 100, right? If you remember. if you remember, right? Ọgọ́rùn was 100, right? So in order to get to 300, based on the structure that we were using, the formula we were using last week, you could call 300 is ọgọ́rùn lé ní igba, because ọgọ́rùn is 100. Lé ní, do you remember when I say something is lé, that means it's addition, right? And when we say something is subtracted, what was the word? Do you remember, Alkaline? When we are subtracting a number from a baseline.
Dini.
Genie, thank you. So yeah, when we are adding to it, we say that number leni. When we're subtracting from a higher base, we say this number dini. Okay, because 100 is what? Ọgọ́rùn, and igba is 200. So putting 100 and 200 together, we're saying ọgọ́rùn lé ní igba. That means 100 plus 200. Okay? So that's a structural form. But if we're looking at the lexical name, what's 300? What number represents 300? Is ọ̀ọ́dúnrún. Okay? So I just wanted to explain that so that is clear. So when we are getting into the higher numbers, this is something that you will have to contend with a lot. The numbers could be pronounced in a structural way of adding or subtracting from a lower base from a higher base, or adding a lower base to a higher base. That you can formulate the numbers like that, because if you consider like the in the English language, when they've only got the structural form, so they don't have any other way to represent. If you say 300, it means 300 ọgọ́rùn mẹ́ta, or you could say 300 in English language is 100 plus 200. It means 300 when you count. Okay, 100 kan, 100 kg, 100 kẹta, báwọn ṣe máa ń form 300 nìyẹn, àbí? That's the only way that they represent that 300, right? They're using structural form. But in the Yoruba language, we have more than that. We could use the structural form, which is ọgọ́rùn lé ní igba is 300. We're still saying 100 plus 200. That's the structural form. Or alternatively, we could say ọ̀ọ́dúnrún. That's the lexical name for 300. So Yoruba is dynamic in that respect. But whichever way you want to do it, the person you're speaking to, they know exactly what you're talking about. But obviously, as learners, as students of the language of the Yoruba numbering system, it's important that we learn both. Okay? Because depending on the context, depending on the environment, some people may use the structural form, ọgọ́rùn lé ní igba, or some people may say ọ̀ọ́dúnrún. You have to know enough to know that they're talking about the same thing. It is still 300. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
300 like the Sparta. Yeah. So yeah, bàbá mi Adébísí mo ṣe bá Júnilọ́ o, ṣé dáadáa ní sà? Ẹ ṣeun tẹ́ wà pẹ̀lú wa o, mo ṣe bá Júnilọ́ o, ṣé dáadáa ní sílé tọmọ o. A máa rí yín bá ní wáyé sí lágbára Èdùmàrè o. So thanks to those who are watching us from the comment, those who are watching us from the back room, you understand? In the FYP. So yeah, I just wanted to explain that because in the last lecture, we were following the structural form, if you remember correctly. We were following the structural form. But as the numbers develop, as they get bigger, anything beyond 200, you start seeing that actually there's two ways to pronounce the number. There's two ways you can, one could represent the numbers, anything above 200. Okay? A lè pè ní ọ̀ọ́dúnrún, a dẹ̀ tún lè pè ní ọgọ́rùn lé ní igba. So it's dynamic in that respect. So the name is inherited. The structure just explains it. Okay? So yeah. So 400 is Ìrìnwó. 400 is Ìrìnwó. Like I said, 200 is Ìgbà. Àbí? 200 is Ìgbà. Ọgọ́rùn is 100. 200 is Ìgbà. 300 is ọ̀ọ́dúnrún. 400 is what? Ìrìnwó. Okay? That's the lexical name for 400. Okay? But Ìgbà is what? If we want to use the structural form, what's that? It's Ìgbà méjì, right? What does Ìgbà méjì, what does it translate to?
200 twice.
200 twice, exactly. Okay, for in the English language, they mean 100 4 times. That's what 400 means, right? It means 100 4 times. But in Yoruba language, we say Ìrìnwó, which is the lexical name for 400, because we have a unique name for each number. But the structural form is Ìgbà méjì, you see? So you might be in the market. Oh, kini èló lẹ̀ ń ta ọjà yẹn? Èló lẹ̀ ń ta ọjà yẹn? Ìgbà méjì ni. They mean 400. Oh, Ìrìnwó ni. It's the same thing, right? Or they could say ẹ̀ẹ́dẹ́gbẹ̀ta. Okay, so yeah, you just know automatically. Okay, bear with me a second. So yeah, what did we get to? So 400 is what? Ìrìnwó or Ìgbà méjì. Okay? So multiplication enters the system, because when you are using Ìgbà méjì, you're saying 200 multiplied by 2. So what you're doing there, automatically you're doing multiplication. Okay? And when you're then or you could just use the lexical name for 400, which is just Ìrìnwó. Okay? Let's continue. Then we've got 500. The lexical name for 500 is ẹ̀ẹ́dẹ́gbẹ̀ta. Okay, the structural form is Ìrìnwó lé ní ọgọ́rùn-ún. Or you could flip it around. Ọgọ́rùn-ún lé ní ìrìnwó. That's the structural form. And what does this mean? Ìrìnwó lé ní ọgọ́rùn-ún. What's the literal translation of that?
300 plus.
No. Ìrìnwó.
Oh, sorry. 400 plus 100.
Yes, or you may say ọgọ́rùn-ún lé ní ìrìnwó is still the same thing. You're still saying 100 plus 400. You could flip it around, right? Okay, you could do it in that way as well. But ultimately, you may come again, the same thing. You may come into the market, at the store. They're using this ẹ̀ẹ́dẹ́gbẹ̀ta, or they're using what? Ìrìnwó lé ní ọgọ́rùn-ún. Okay, or ọgọ́rùn-ún lé ní ìrìnwó. So it makes sense. Okay, já tẹ̀síwájú. So basically, the name and the structure is like I said, is an enhanced learning. Your learning becomes deeper if you're able to learn both, okay, in parallel. What we're teaching becomes deeper if you're able to learn both in parallel, okay? It means you've got the flexibility. You know the structure. Learning the structure, we started the first couple of lessons on Yoruba number, ÌṢÍRÒ Yoruba. We started learning the structure, because I'm a big believer that don't teach somebody the detail will figure it out, will be figured out, but the structure is the most important thing. When you're learning something, learn the structure, and then applying the structure, then you become limitless that way. Okay, you become limitless once you understand the structure. Okay. So then you become unstoppable that way. So it's very, very important to understand that. So that's the way we started. Okay. So, and as we continue on, I think I prepared an alternative slide also, where I had where is it? Bear with me just a sec. I believe there was another PowerPoint that I had prepared, which goes into the number even more. So So yeah, I think this one, I took it into 200, 300, into the thousands on this one. So, yeah. So yeah. So the purpose of this module is as you can tell, so this was the original one. The other one was what I had as an enhancer. I'm not sure if you recall last week. I said there was something I was going to do to explore some additional structural elements of what we were doing. So that's why I created that second slide to support this one that we're about to go through now. Okay. So yeah. So understand Yoruba number construction beyond memorization. Okay, this module enables one to be able to count confidently from 200 to 300, but obviously 400, 500 up until the thousands as well. It also enables the learner to recognize anchors. We talked about the anchors last week. We talked about the anchors. We talked about the base numbers. Okay, we talked about the addition, subtraction. As you can already see, multiplications are already being demonstrated. The higher we go into the numbers, you start seeing not only addition and subtraction, you start seeing some multiplications as well. Okay, so yeah. Also extending the same logic to 400, 500 and beyond. We've already done 400 and 500, but obviously we're going to play around with a bit more additional numbers as we go through today's lecture. Okay, so yeah, bear with me a second. So we talked about the anchor. The last week's lecture, we stopped on 200 using Ìgbà as the anchor, didn't we? Okay. We said Ìgbà, which is 200. It is now our new starting point for the purpose of today. And we are saying every number in this lesson is built from that anchor. We used Ìgbà. Initially, we started with what? Ọgọ́rùn last week. And then we progressed to Ìgbà. Okay, so yeah, that was it really. So and then so if we now continue on from there, I said no, take that iPad and go into your sister's room. Sorry about that, people. So yeah, 200 is Ìgbà. 201. How would we do that using that structure? Is what? Ọ̀kan lé ní igba. Or ìkan lé ní igba. So that's 1 plus what? 200. Ọ̀kan lé ní igba, ọ̀kan lé ní igba, ìkan lé ní igba is still the same thing. Okay. 202 is èjì lé ní igba. 203 ẹ̀ta lé ní igba. 204 ẹ̀rin lé ní igba. 205 àrún lé ní igba. 206 ẹ̀fà lé ní igba. Okay, it's still the same structure of addition. Adding what? Adding the number to the base. Okay, we number to the anchor. Okay, and then what did I say last week? Once we pass the the 5 or the 6 way, the midway point between 5 and 10, it starts to change. Okay. So that's between the anchors, between 200, 100, 200, 300, you know, and so on and so forth. Okay, but then 206 is ẹ̀fà lé ní igba. That literally is 6 plus 200. 207 èje lé ní igba. 208 ẹ̀jọ lé ní igba. There's a bit of a typo here. It should not be A. Remember, when we say A, we always have a bottom accent, right? Don't we? If you remember from the alphabetical modules that we've done. Okay. Let me just ignore that. Okay. Then 209, ẹ̀sán lé ní igba. 210, ẹ̀wá lé ní igba. And it continues. 211, mọ́kànlá lé ní igba. 212, méjìlá lé ní igba, 213, mẹ́tàlá lé ní igba, 214, mẹ́rìnlá lé ní igba, 215, mẹ́ẹ̀ẹ́dógún lé ní igba, 216, mẹ́rìndínlógún lé ní igba, 217, mẹ́tàdínlógún lé ní igba, 218, méjìdínlógún lé ní igba. So if you have a look at from 216 onwards, can you see that it's now morphed into both addition and subtraction? Let me call it out in a bit more explicitly. Because if you isolate mẹ́rìndínlógún, what is that doing there? It is saying take away 4 from what? Mẹ́rìndínlógún from 20. That's how you get 16, right? You see, so if you just isolate mẹ́rìndínlógún, what is it doing there? Is subtracting 4 out of 20 to give us 16. If the number we were treating was only 20, it would just be mẹ́rìndínlógún. Just to show you the logical processing going on here. If the number was just 20, 20 would equal to just mẹ́rìndínlógún. Because what does that tell us? It says let me break it down. Dín-lógún. Okay? From the previous modules, we know that ogún is what? 20. We know that dín means subtract. And we know that mẹ́rin is 4. So number 20 is mẹ́rìndínlógún. But when you are doing 216, sorry, number 16 is mẹ́rìndínlógún. Okay? Because we know ogún is 20. So number 16 is mẹ́rìndínlógún. But if we're saying 216, then it becomes mẹ́rìndínlógún. Yeah? Plus what? Ìgbà, which is 200. Is it making sense?
Yeah.
Okay? If it was only 16, is mẹ́rìndínlógún in isolation. But if we're using 200 or 216, then it becomes mẹ́rìndínlógún, which we already know, that's number 16. Lé ní igba. That means 16 plus 200 gives us 216. So what have we just done there? In a single number, we've done a combination of both subtraction and addition. You see? In a single number, you've just done what? You've just done subtraction and addition. Just like that. How beautiful is that? That was brilliant, wasn't it? Within the same number, you've just done addition. And in some numbers, you may even find examples of numbers which represent both subtraction, addition, and multiplication in one. Okay? But I just wanted to explain that structure. So 218 then becomes what? Méjìdínlógún lé ní igba. Because 18 is what? Méjìdínlógún, which means méjì means 2. Take away from 20. Okay, which means 18 is méjìdínlógún, but 218 is méjìdínlógún lé ní igba. 219 is mọ́kàndínlógún lé ní igba. Okay, now let's step it forward. Now we're looking at the 20 block stepping stones. 220, like we said, we say ogún lé ní igba is 220. Because 20 is what? Ogún. Igba is 200. When you put the two together, what do we have? Ogún lé ní igba. Now, wait there. Let's take it further. 221 then becomes a little bit more complex or more interesting. Ogún lé ní igba lé ní kan is 221. Because we're saying ogún lé ní igba is what? 200. Then we're stepping it further to include 1. So how do we do that? Then you add in lé ní kan. right? Because we have already established that 220 is Ogun Lenigba. So as we then begin adding additional numbers after 220, then we have to introduce another layer. Okay? 221 then becomes Ogun Lenigba Lenikon. Yeah? 230 would be what? If you remember, what was 30 from last week's lecture? Do you remember what was number 30, Alkaline?
Can't remember right now, you know.
Am I hearing pages turning? Man, it's pulling out the notebook, notepad,
I don't know. I have to, man.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah,
But ultimately, obviously, you want to memorize this. And remember, if you was in the market right now and you was pulling out your book, I already know I need to add 30% to the price of my goods. You understand?
Yeah.
That means you're showing rookie behavior. You get me?
Yeah.
Then the price has just gone up 30%. 30%, and let you argue it down. You know, depending on how your negotiation skills, you may be able to negotiate it down by 10%. But I have still cheated you by 20%, haven't I?
Yeah.
You see, the Yoruba market is, is treacherous. Not treacherous in a, you could say in a wicked way, but obviously, look, it's business at the end of the day. You understand? It's negotiation. It's a marketplace. You have to, you have to have your wits about yourself. So that's how it goes. But coming in there and you say, oh, okay, èló lẹ fẹ́ ta kíní yẹn? Ó sọ pé ogójì lé nígbà 240. Irọ́ o, mo lè rà yẹn ní 240 lọ́wọ́ yín o. What am I going to say? Màá ní pé, okay, ẹ jẹ́ kí n fún yín ní ọgbọ̀n lé nígbà. I'm saying, let me give you 230. You understand? But if I have to pull out my notepad, the person I'm talking to already knows. So the next item I'm going to ask for is going to get, I'm going to have to pay over the odds for it because they know that I'm not about that life. You get me? That's what he signals about you. He signals this person is a rookie on the market. He's not about that life. You're not well versed in your numbers. So we're gonna have to slap you with a fee. You get me? That's the way it goes. In the Yoruba market, that's how it goes. It's like, it's not about what you can get, it's about what you can negotiate. And a lot of life is like that, to be fair. A lot of things in life is like that, okay? It may not be as in your face as a Yoruba market environment, but it's about what in a lot of African cultures, it's exactly like that. Okay, that's mirrored in a lot of African cultures as well. It's about what you can negotiate. So the mastering of your numbers, you have to be very sharp with it. So yeah, 230, as we just introduced, would then be what? Ogbon Lenigba. Okay, that will be 230. Okay, but if we were then to do 231 using this example above, then how does this become 231?
Ogbon Lenigba Lenikon.
Washiri, thank you. Ogbon Lenigba Lenikon, right? Ogbon Lenigba, then we'll bring this here, right? Lenikon. Okay. Sorry, wrong place. 230 is Ogbon Lenigba. Is down here. Ogbon Lenigba Lenikon. Yeah? 240 is what? We know. What was number 40 again? Do you remember? We said number 40 was Ogoji, right? If you remember our 1 to 100, number 40 was Ogoji, right? So number 40 is Ogoji. If number 240 then becomes what? Ogoji Lenigba. But sometimes, for short, for abbreviation sometimes, You know, they might say, instead of saying the full word ogoji, sometimes they say oji. Okay? They say oji, oji lonigba, oji lenigba, oji lenigba. So you know that they're talking about ogoji, depending on the location, on the context, on where the person, the character of the person you're dealing with, or the ethnicity of the person you're dealing with. So but the full academic pronunciation is ogoji. But like I said, in a fast environment, sometimes somebody can say OG. You know that they're still talking about the same thing. Okay? And then 200 and obviously then we know that 241 would be what? Ogoji lenigba lenikan. 242 will be what? Ogoji lenigba leleji. Right? Lenimeji. Then 260 is what? Ogota lenigba. 60 is what? Ogota lenigba. Do you remember what was number 50 based on last week's lecture? Do you remember what number 50 was? Number 50 was Adota.
Adota.
Yes, number 50 was Adota, right? So if we were to say, what is 250? So 250 will then equals what?
Adota lenigba.
Exactly. Right? Because we know that Ìgbà is 200. That doesn't change. Right? So we're just saying Ìgbà, we've established that anchor, that's baseline. Ìgbà, we've established that. We're not changing that. We're not moving away from that. We're just adding more to 200. So we're saying Àádọ́ta lé nígba. Okay? But obviously, if we're then trying to play around with the 250, okay, to get to the next baseline, we are saying 250 plus 1. That means 251, which would be àádọ́ta lé nígba lé níkan, right? Then lé ní méjì, lé lẹ́ta, lé lẹ́rin, lé lárùn, it goes on like that till you get to the next anchor, the next base, which is 260. And it's what? Ọgọ́ta lé nígba, right? If it's 270, again, we know that number 70 is what? Àádọ́rin. Then it's àádọ́rin lé nígba. 280, we know that 80 is what? 80 is ọgọ́rùn-ún, right? Then 200, then it becomes what? But look what happened here. Up until now, do you remember the structure we've been using is addition, right? We are adding. That's the structure we've been using up until 280. Well, even 270 as well. But let's say that 280 as an example here for reference. Do you see what happens here? What change can you observe with this number before I even pronounce it, before I call it out? What change do you observe? Based on the structure we've been following up until this point, what change do you see?
They took away 20, so Ogun.
Yeah.
Took away 20 from 300.
Exactly. So we've been using addition up until that point, right? And then it flips to subtraction. Okay, because by the time we get beyond 260 mark, we are looking at the next base, right? We're looking at the next base. Okay, so we could just say what? You could, your 270 could be àádọ́rin lé nígba, or it could be what? Àádọ́rin dín ní what? Ọgọ́rùn-ún. Right? Because we know ọgọ́rùn-ún is what? 300, right? We know that, right? Ọgọ́rùn-ún is 300, right?
Is it?
Ọgọ́rùn-ún lé nígba. Sorry, 300 is ọgọ́rùn-ún lé nígba. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Ìgbà is 200 and ọgọ́rùn-ún is 100. So 300 is ọgọ́rùn-ún lé nígba.
Yeah.
Right? So if we're going to 280, hence why we start to take away from what?
Okay, yeah. That's it's bad. Yeah, it's like you're subtracting and then adding and so yeah.
Exactly. So ogún dín ní ọgọ́rùn-ún lé nígba. You see,
Yeah.
it got complicated here, didn't it?
Yeah.
So this is advanced level. You see, basically the beauty for me, the beauty of the Yoruba numbering system is the mind arithmetic that it demands of you.
Yeah.
That's brain exercise right there. So imagine somebody dealing with these numbers all day. That kind of person will never have. Is it what's that disease that affects old people? And it's
Dementia.
that what?
Dementia.
Dementia. It makes you dementia prone, doesn't it? It makes you dementia dementia proof. Because it means, imagine somebody having to engage their mind at that level every day. So imagine the typical Yoruba trader. Every day you're running this in your mind, you're doing this mental arithmetic. Which obviously now we know that scientists have now proven that mental arithmetic keeps adults, the older elderly people, it keeps their mind sharp. Then the risk of contacting dementia becomes significantly lessened. Significantly reduced. Now imagine the typical person who's remember, buy and sell and trading is something that our ancestors did a lot. Their mind is going to be very, very sharp. They're doing this mental arithmetic just as a way of life. You understand? This is just their lifestyle. It's not like they're not even trying to be smart. It is just their way of life. Now imagine how intelligent that trains you to be. Even if you're not even trying to be intelligent, okay? Even if you want you want to be stupid, but if you're having to deal with this and doing this mental arithmetic every day, obviously some are going to be better than others. It's just training your mind. It's like taking your mind to the gym every day and lifting weights. You understand? You're doing bench press with your mind every day at this level. Okay? Ogún dín ní ọgọ́rùn-ún lé nígba. You see how complicated that is. But once you've mastered the structure, then the rest is easy, isn't it? Which is why the structure is very important. The first couple of lectures we've done on the numbering system, we started with what? We started intentionally with the structure. Okay? So now we've reached a new milestone. We are now up to the 300. Okay? 300 is what? Or dúrún, which is what? 100 adding to 200. But remember, we broke it down earlier, right? What was the other way? What was the lexicon? This is the lexicon. But what was the structural way of representing 300?
Ọgọ́rùn-ún lé nígba.
Lé nígba. Or you could say Ìgbà lé lọ́gọ́rùn-ún, right? So that's brilliant, isn't it? So now we understand the structure, but we also know the lexicon. When you compare it to the English language, the English numbering system, they don't have a lexicon. They only have the structure, right? They only have either addition or multiplication. But the Yoruba language and the numbering system is so beautiful. Our forefathers had the number for 300 in itself. They can say something is 300 without having to do any mental arithmetic, okay? Which is dúrún, and we also got 100 plus 200 is another way of representing it, which is what? Which is what? Ọgọ́rùn-ún lé nígba, right?
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni.
Which is ọgọ́rùn-ún lé nígba. Okay, so now let's continue. So we've just done what? We've added 100 plus 200 together. Okay, so only a new anchor. So obviously nothing new is happening here. It's just a continuation of the first part of today's lecture, which I've already demonstrated. We explained both the lexicon as well as what the structure. Okay, and based on what we talked about earlier as well, 400 is Ìrìnwó or Ìgbà méjì, which is multiplication right there. 500 is ọgọ́rùn-ún lé nígba méjì, right? What have we just done there?
100 plus 200 multiplied by 2.
Multiplied by 2. You see how beautiful is that? Huh? How beautiful is that? So yeah. So it's just beautiful. I really enjoy it. So when I'm obviously this is something I've had to go and learn as well. I didn't learn this from school. I've had to go and learn. I've had to go and rediscover my Yoruba language. But remember what I explained earlier. Obviously, in the earlier part of today's lecture, we didn't just talk about the structural, the number in structural form. We also said what is 500 in itself, the lexicon for 500. It was what, if you remember? Degbeta. Do you remember that? Let me pull it up back on the screen. This one here.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Another way to represent 500 is what? Ìrìnwó, which is 400. Lé ọgọ́rùn-ún, right? Or we could say ọgọ́rùn-ún lé ní ìrìnwó, but ìrìnwó lé ní ọgọ́rùn-ún. 400 plus 100. That's another way of representing structurally. Or we could say degbeta, right? So multiplication and addition happening at the same time. Okay, which is why the Yoruba numbering system, I've enjoyed it. I enjoyed learning it because it's logical. At any level you look at anything in our culture, if something is illogical, I would even argue that it's foreign to our culture. When you start finding illogic, which is why the belief system, the system of believing something that the religion brought into our culture is foreign. Our forefathers didn't operate like that. But if one doesn't understand the pre-colonial civilization of our people, it's easy to look at the condition of our people today and then make a judgment based on that lens. But if you look beyond and you understand our pre-colonial history, at any level, you are going to understand that it was always about what you can prove. It was always logical. It was always about making sense. It was never about belief. So if you go into our culture at any level, even like the Babalawo, the priests, everything that they're doing is scientific, is divine mathematics, is metaphysics. If you go into the herbalist, the Onishegun, everything they were doing is what the white people are now calling what? Quantum physics, the medical element of quantum physics. Because it's not a guess, you're not telling somebody to believe, no. If you take this plant of this quantity and you mix it with this element, maybe or palm oil of this quantity, and you mix them together and you basically burn them together to mesh them to come up, into powder form, and then you apply it in a particular way, then it does something, then it provides a solution or healing for something. Do you understand what I'm saying? Our forefathers were not guessing. It was not just believe it and hope it's going to be. No, they were very scientific. Okay, and they will tell you, oh, you got fibroid. Don't worry about fibroid disease. Oh, you mean in Europe, they don't have a solution for fibroid. Oh, you have to go and do a surgery and they cut pieces of you out. No. We don't do that in our culture. Our ancestors had solution. We're not talking about treatment. We are talking about what? Healing. Because they practice science. But it's easy for somebody to come today and then see maybe one of our Onishegun. What you see, you just see them using things of, okay, they're burning wood, they're putting that leaf from that tree, they're mixing it with something over here and something over there. What are they doing? That looks a bit old school. That looks a bit uncivilized. But you don't know that what they are actually doing is what? They are doing quantum physics. They are taking what? Substances, mixing it up. Okay? There is measurement. You have to know the properties of a leaf. You have to know the property of it. Okay, this leaf has these properties. It's strong in iron. It's strong in this. It's rich in carbohydrates. It's rich in that. Okay, let me take that. It gives me this level of carbohydrate. If I then combine this carbohydrate or this leaf that's rich in iron and I combine it with something, what? With another substance, and I'm getting something out of it. You see, I am what? What am I doing in that process? That's a scientific process. But unfortunately, when civilization came, it brought a lot of, oh, just believe it. Oh, in the Western world, okay, something is wrong with you internally. Well, you go for treatments, don't you? Have you ever heard somebody in the UK saying, "Oh, I'm going for healing for something that condition that I've got"? Have you ever heard that language being used before?
Nah.
No, they don't go for healing, do they? They go for treatments, right? You know what I'm saying? So that means you're just treating it. You're just making it more comfortable. You're making that the whole system is about just making you more comfortable with being able to live with your disease or live with your physical condition, whatever ailments that you got. The whole system is about just making you to be able to live with it. Is you receiving treatments for it. Okay? In our own culture, that's not the culture we inherited from our ancestors. It was always scientific. It's either got a cure or it hasn't. It's about curing things. Okay? And there's a saying in the Yoruba culture, which basically translates to a disease that's uncurable means the herb is incomplete. What does that say in a nutshell? That means our forefathers believed nothing is uncurable. Ọmọ ní àìsàn tí ò gbóògùn ewé rẹ̀ ni ò tí ì pé. Àjúbà àwọn àgbà wa. What that means is a disease or an ailment that is uncurable. Our forefathers didn't live with that mindset that, that means, it's uncurable. No, they stepped it forward. That means the herb for that ailment or whatever, disease or whatever, it's incomplete. Keep searching, keep working, keep researching, keep testing, keep what? Performing the scientific process until you find the solution, until you arrive at a combination which cures it. We didn't just treat. Our ancestors had the belief, àìsàn tí ò gbóògùn ewé rẹ̀ ni ò tí ì pé. Okay, so it was always scientific, but unfortunately the colonization came and it derailed us. So how do we move forward in future? We have to go back to our ancestors, their civilization, their belief system, their process of doing things. Because it was solution oriented, not what? Not just managing, not just treating, not just believing. No, the belief thing wasn't ours. It's not, it's foreign. It didn't originate from our land. Okay, so the future of our civilization, the future of our people lies in going back to our ancestors' philosophy of what? Of being scientific, proving things. If it works, you have to prove it. Okay. And there's another saying as well. There's another saying as well. It's way babaláwo oníṣògùn ẹ̀ tógun ẹ̀ bá dá lójú a máa fi ń gbárí ni. So what that saying in effect is, if your ogun could be a medicine or could be your cure, yeah. If you're confident in it, you're supposed to say it with chest and be boastful. People were encouraged. Dá ẹ lójú pé tógun ẹ̀ bá dá ẹ lójú a máa fi ń gbárí ni. That means you say it with chest. You know what I'm saying? If you're saying you've got a formula which performs a function, then come out and demonstrate it. Come and say it with chest. Come and demonstrate it. Let's have some demonstration. Not let's have some belief. Not let's treat it. Let's just treat it, and we just treating it. We just massaging it. No, it was about demonstration. So our ancestors' culture and their philosophy of demonstration. Everything that lays claim to be true has to be demonstrable. We have to go back to that, and if we do, I believe a lot of the challenges that we are facing as African people, as well as a lot of the challenges that the world is facing collectively, I believe we can find solutions to that. Okay, we can find solution to it if we just need to go back to our ancestors' way of doing things, which was projected and portrayed to be backwards, but actually that's actually the forward thinking. Okay, their process and what they did was forward thinking. It's the backwardness that we are finding ourselves in today, and we are celebrating it as civilization, as progress. No, very, very backwards, very, very foolish, very, very childish way of living. What we've been subjected to now. So we have to find solution by going back home. Sometimes you have to take a backward step in order to be able to make a progress forward, right? So we have to go back to it, which is why learning our ancestral culture, their systems, their civilization, I'm telling you, it just brings joy to my heart, because at every level, if you're the kind of person like myself, you're an analytical person and you like knowing something for a fact. Okay, I upset some people sometimes when I'm so direct and I'm so factual about the things that I'm talking about. Sometimes, if you find sometimes that rubs some people the wrong way, because people like existing in the gray area. They like caveating the things that they say. It may be like that, or it may not be. It depends. You know what I'm saying. But and then when you come into the Yoruba culture, the other may be no, is it so or is it not so? Does it work or doesn't it work? It's not a question of, but if you believe, it may be on Tuesday, it can work, or no. Our Onishagun, they will tell you, if you mix A and B, you get C. If you mix 1 + 1, you get 2. You know what I'm saying? There is no subjectivity of, everything is subjective, that gray area. Let's just live together. Let's just, be diplomatic. Let's just sit in the gray area where nobody knows, is it right or left? Is it up or down? Let's just sit in that gray area. That nonsense. What that does is it stifles progress, right? If you don't know if that way is forward or backwards, and you just existing in the middle so that you can accommodate the people that don't know as much as you, or the people that are not ready to do the work to identify the truth, the people that like to live in that gray, you don't make progress. Progress don't come in that kind of environment. It's comforting because it means nobody's right, meaning nobody's wrong, right? If nobody's right, then nobody's wrong. You understand? But then when you then go back and start studying our culture, we're not talking about our pre-colonial culture. It's very, very important to make that distinction. When you then go back to study our pre-colonial culture, then you start realizing our ancestors, to even find one Yoruba word that says maybe perfectly, you will struggle. You will have to combine different words or different phrases together to then say it means maybe. Our ancestors didn't have a lot of maybes. When you study our pre-colonial history, our pre-colonial civilization and system, you will notice that our ancestors maybe wasn't coming in around. You would have to, you just have to kind of, mix something together to find. There is no natural word, one word, which naturally says maybe in our culture. You will see that they're combining something just to find something that matches the European version of maybe. Ó lè rí bẹ́ẹ̀, ó dẹ̀ lè má rí bẹ́ẹ̀. Ó lè rí bẹ́ẹ̀, if you translate it, it means it can be so. But in order to have maybe, you say, oh, le ribe, oh, de le ma ribe. You see what you're doing there? You're now combining it is so and it is not so in order to then to represent maybe. Our ancestors didn't have one single word for maybe because it was a scientific society. Is it so or is it not so? Okay, which is why, so if somebody know the word for maybe, one word which represents maybe in Yoruba language, please enlighten me. But based on my own research, based on my own studies, I haven't come across it. The closest thing to maybe that I've identified is a statement which says it can be so, and a statement which says it can't be so. They now combine both together to say, oh, that's how we represent maybe. For those in the comment section, let me know if you know one Yoruba word which represents maybe. Maybe. You would have to put two different words together. One word that says it is so, and the other word that says it isn't so. Then they put it together and they represent it as maybe. What does that tell us? It tells us that our ancestors didn't play them games. Our ancestors were very right and exact. Our ancestors were very scientific. It is either so or it is not so. If it's not so, then it's not so. Take it over there. If it is so, demonstrate it and prove it that it is so. All that maybe thing is foreign to us. We need to go back to that. Okay, it was not if you go pre-colonial systems were not emotional, they were scientific. Is it so? Is it not so? Is he a boy or is he a girl? Or, our ancestors didn't do that gray area nonsense. Okay, and we see how much progress that they made in them societies and what they were able to achieve because it was not subjective. They didn't do a lot of subjectivism. It was always objective. Okay, it was always scientific. Everything that they did their thing on when they built the pyramid, they didn't use any subjectivity for that. Objectivity, mathematics, science. You know what I'm saying? So we need to go back to that. So that's what you encounter. Sorry to go on a tangent and off topic there, but that's what you then find in the Yoruba numbering system. Again, scientific. You know what I'm saying? Scientific, structural. Okay? Structural, it engages the mind. Okay? Anyway, so basically 400 starts introducing multiplication. Okay? TikTok was bringing puzzles. Power tap. For those who are watching us, please power tap a little bit. Share the live if you can. Okay? We're wrapping up shortly. We're on the hour mark. So when you start getting into the 400s, it starts introducing more multiplication. 500 combines multiplication plus addition. Okay? Let's step forward and see how it's so. Okay? Because 500, what are we going to have? How do we represent 500?
Gata. Oh, wait. Yeah, gata. Edek beta, my bad.
Yeah?
Edek beta.
Okay.
Yeah.
Edek beta, yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Which we've touched on earlier. We had it over here, didn't we?
Yeah.
This one here. Okay? Okay. So then what's next? Okay, and so basically working with anchors again, so 300 to 500. This is just providing a bit more and I said I was going to do this last week. I said I would add a bit more granularity in there because I explained the anchor, we've explained the structure. You just need to keep applying the structure, right? We don't have to say, oh, what's 320, 21, 22? We've already done that with 200. When we were losing the 200, we did 200 to what? We did 200 like to 250 or 200 to 300, didn't we? So 300 is, instead of using ogun, you're using what? Ogbon, right? You're using odorun instead of using Ìgbà, right? Then 20 is what? Ogun. Then 30 is what? Ogbon. So if this is 330, it would be what? ọgbọ̀n lé ní ọgọ́rùn-ún lé nígba, right? Or it would be what? If another way of saying 320 would be what? It would even be a shorter way of saying 320. It could be what? Ogún lé ní ọ̀ọ́dúnrún. Remember, when we looked at the structural way as well as the lexicon, the structural way would be this format, right? But the lexicon way would be, we know that 300 is what? Ọ̀ọ́dúnrún, right?
Yeah.
Okay? So if you went back on this, you could say, where's it gone? Okay, wait. Have I lost the page? I think I moved something, didn't I? Okay, yeah, so where were we? Yeah, okay, so yeah, and that's the way it continues, right? Yeah, so Degbeta is 500, and we've already explained that. Where was I? I think I was on...
You was here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah?
You're trying to explain, was it?
I was trying to explain 320. So this is the structural way of 320. But another shorter way is not, instead of using the multiplication and the addition, right? You could use what? You could just use 300. We know that 300 is what?
Ọ̀ọ́dúnrún.
Exactly, ọ̀ọ́dúnrún. So you can just say ogún lé ní ọ̀ọ́dúnrún. Shorter way to get to it. But you're still doing what? You're still doing arithmetic, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're still doing arithmetic. I just enjoy it. I've really enjoyed it. So, and then 360. 360 is what? Ogójì lé ní igba mẹ́ta. What have we done there? We've done addition and what? And subtraction, haven't we?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. And then so on and so forth. 480. Ogún dín ní igba mẹ́ta. Ogún, which is 20. Dín ní igba mẹ́ta. So take 20 out of, what is igba?
200.
Yeah.
Times, yeah, the meta is times 2.
Times 3.
Oh, times 3, oh my bad. Yeah.
And then, so basically, as I explained last week, you find which anchor is the easiest. Okay, you find, okay, am I gonna get to the number by adding to an anchor or subtracting to an anchor? An anchor is basically a base, right? So if I want to say 270, what's the quickest way for me to say it? Do I want to add 200 to 70, or do I want to subtract 30 from 300?
30 from 300.
That is it in a nutshell. But either way you go about it, they are both right. You're still going to arrive at 270, aren't you?
Yeah.
It is as simple as that, you see? Which is why it's important for you to master the formula, the structure. Once you learn the structure, it's easily applicable to whatever number you decide how you apply it. But in a busy market perspective, you want to go for the shorter one, right? You want to go for the more efficient way of saying it, right? Because in a fast world, in a fast environment, we tend to shorten our words. We tend to abbreviate a lot, right? So yeah, but it's up to the user at that point. Once you've mastered the structure and you've owned that, then you determine how you apply it. Okay, you determine how you apply it. Are you subtracting from a higher base, or are you adding from a lower base? It is that simple. The rest is easy after that. Okay, so Yoruba numbers are structured mathematics. They're not just number that you memorize, like in the English language, you just memorize a number. Which obviously does what it does, that's good as well. But our ancestors, they go a bit deeper. They explain the formula. Why is it so? It's broken down. It's broken down as well. Okay, it's broken down. They explain why it's so, and it just is a reflection of everything else about our ancestral environment. Okay, so when we go into the thousands, then you start getting ẹgbẹ̀rún, 2000, ẹgbẹ̀rún méjì, ẹgbẹ̀rún mẹ́ta, ẹgbẹ̀rún mẹ́rin. Same logic, you know. Big is just a bigger scale at that point, right? Obviously, you could do some memorization as well, but ultimately, once you have the formula, the rest is easy. Okay, there's some real life application here for the students who are going to receive the workbook. You are going to obviously have this to do as an assignment or as an homework. Just some case studies for you to play around with. For instance, real life application of the numbers we've been playing with. If a school fees is 2,500, how do you arrive at that? How do you arrive at that? If your son's school fees is 2,500, then how do you get to 2,500? We know 2,000 is, you could say ẹgbẹ̀rún méjì, right?
Can you go back on the previous page, please? I kind of missed that.
Yeah, 2,000 is ẹgbẹ̀rún méjì.
Okay.
Yeah?
All right. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So it will be ẹgbẹ̀rún méjì, then Lenny, what's 50 again? Adota. Oh no, that's 200. That's 2,050, not 2,500.
Our daughter is 50, it's 500, not 50.
Yeah.
But remember, what's 500? 500 could be what?
Ẹ̀ẹ́dẹ́gbẹ̀ta or Ìrìnwó Lẹ́ni ọgọ́rùn-ún.
Exactly. Is that way? So we've got two ways to approach it, right?
Yeah.
Because we had it here. Where was it? We had it here, didn't we? Right? We could say ẹ̀ẹ́dẹ́gbẹ̀ta or Ìrìnwó Lẹ́ni ọgọ́rùn-ún, right?
Yeah.
So we got different ways of formulating what we after here, which is 2,500, right? So what's the shortest way of doing it?
So I say ẹgbẹ̀rún méjì Lẹ́ni.
Ẹ̀ẹ́dẹ́gbẹ̀ta, because it's 500, right? You want to say 500, adding 500 to 2,000, right?
Okay. Can you do it? Can you add it?
You can flip it as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can say what? Ẹgbẹ̀rún méjì Lẹ́ni
ẹ̀ẹ́dẹ́gbẹ̀ta.
ẹ̀ẹ́dẹ́gbẹ̀ta. That would be the shortest way, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and it goes on like that. So that obviously we're just talking numbers and contextualizing numbers. Bàbá mi, Mr. Adébísí, ẹ ṣé mo, thanks for the gift. Mo mọ̀ ọ́ lóore o. Ọwọ́ yín á máa ròkè lágbára Èdùmàrè, kò ní tán níbi tẹ́ tí mo ẹ ṣeun bá mi. Mo mọ̀ ọ́ lóore, mo ṣe bá jú ní lọ. So yeah, or if they say a land is what? A land is 3,200 square meters. So if they say a land size, you go into Nigeria and they're telling you, you looked at the brochure, it's 3,200 meters, right? So what do you do with that?
Ẹgbẹ̀rún mẹ́ta Lẹ́ni Ìgbà.
Ẹgbẹ̀rún mẹ́ta lé ní igba. We know that Ìgbà is 200, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's easy, right? Once you got the formula, you can always apply it in any context, right? Once you've mastered the structure, right? And the same thing could be applied to age, years. Most numbers must live, not sit on paper. These are living numbers. Obviously, we're not just learning numbers for the numbers' sake. It's about, okay, we're learning it in order for us to be able to apply it in real life scenarios, right? In different contexts, to different, units of measurement. Okay? So that's the whole point of it, is so that you'll be able to apply it. Okay? Okay. So yeah, that's the that's basically the crux of it. That's the way it's structured. Okay. So yeah, but obviously there are some errors. I think we identified this last week. I just wanted to, just to highlight it a bit more. We identified this error last week because it's easy to mix numbers up. So the typical error you may come across is when it comes to 180. What would you say? What would you say? 180.
Ogun dinigba.
Ogundinigba. Right? But if you said Ogoji Dinigba, what would that be?
It's Ogunji 30. No,
No,
it's 40.
Ogbon is 30. Ogoji is what? 40.
40. So that would be,
Right? That would be 160, wouldn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. So so those are the things you just need to be careful about, right? Those are the things. That's where things could easily be misconstrued. Things could easily go wrong when you mix Ogoji with Ogbon, or when you mix Ogun with Ogoji, and then you start throwing them into a multiplication or into an addition or into a subtraction. Then things can become confusing that way. So once you just know your bases, so the only thing one needs to memorize is your base. What is 10? What is 20? What is 30? What is 40? What is 50? What is 60? What is 70? 80? Once you memorize your base through, then the application becomes easy. The rest is just structural. Apply the structure and you'll be able to get to what you need very quickly. Okay. The more you do it, the better it is, the more efficient you become at it. Okay. End of module. Any questions?
Nah, no questions from me. Yeah, that was yeah, learning that is like, yeah, that's a head scrambler.
It's all in the mind, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's like a mind.
think.
It's like a mind exercise. It's like a mind
Yeah,
working out
literally.
your mind, right?
Literally.
Working out your mind. But you see, it's training your mind to be able to deal with complex numbers, complex arithmetic in a simplified way, in a way that's fun, in a way that's engaging, isn't it?
Yeah. It forces you not to be lazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. It forces you not to be dyslexic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you keep the mind busy, you keep the mind working in that way, when you get into your old age, you're going to be a lot sharper compared to your peers. Okay? Going to be a lot sharper compared to your peers because your mind has been your mind has been worked out, it's been exercised, it's been in the gym. Okay, your mind has been in the gym, it's hench. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So module review and reflections. Can you count from 200 to 300? This is how you test yourself. Okay? I'm not trying to put you on the spot right now, but I would encourage the students is make sure that how do you test yourself? How do you know that you've had this module has been successful? How do you know that you've mastered what you're supposed to master successfully in this particular lecture? Play around with this this assignment. Check on yourself. Make sure, can you count from 200 to 300? That's the first anchor, the first base, right? Well, actually, last week's lecture, you should be able to count from 100 to 200. That was what we were dealing with, right? From 1 to 200. This lecture, can you count from 200 to 300? Can you identify your base numbers, your anchors? Can you explain 300, 400, 500 structurally? Not just using the lexicon, because it's easy to memorize the lexicon, right? But can you actually explain it structurally? And also, can you apply those numbers to real life, which you've already demonstrated? We had some scenarios here of, paying the school fees for your son or your daughter, 2,500 naira. And so yeah, the Nigerian currency is naira, by the way. I didn't think I needed to mention that, but we might as well. Okay, just in case. So yeah, we talked about the market price. You go into a market, you're pricing goods, it's 480. How do you get to that? We use another example of a land size. You're buying land. It's 3,200 square meters is what you read in the brochure. You decided, okay, well, I'm planning a trip to Nigeria. I'm looking to acquire some land. This particular one I saw on the brochure is 3,200 square meters or 3,700 square meters. How do you begin your negotiation? Okay, you start with it. Okay, I can see this is the advertised size of it, 3,200 square meters for X amount of money. You can then say, well, I need more or I need less. Can I buy more land? I need more than 3,200 square meters for the project that I'm planning to do. Or I need less. I don't need that much. You begin your negotiation there using the right numbers, demonstrating in that transaction, okay, that you know your numbers well so that you don't get bamboozled, right? You don't get finessed. You know what I'm saying? And yes, and the whole point of including these is that these examples, these scenarios, is that the numbers must live. The whole purpose of this module, what did we say it was from week 1? We said it's what? This particular course, it's an accelerated learning program. Okay? You see, when we were dealing with the what's it called? With the speech aspect of the Yoruba language, we started from the alphabet. Then we worked our way up. We explained the intricacies of it. We went into the tone, and I made some regular references, or should I say declarations, that a lot of people who speak the language, Yoruba language today, don't understand those tones. Okay? Some people are versed in the language. They can speak Yoruba, they can, but when you then put the letters, the wordings of the sentence or an article or literature in front of them, and you tell them to apply the tone to it, you've just written out the sentences, you tell them to apply the tone. A lot of people may not know how to do that. They haven't studied it at that level. But we deliberately designed this course so that you can understand it at the granular level, at the structural level. Because once you've mastered it at the structural level, the rest is easy. Okay? We then went into what? We started from the alphabet, A, B, D, A, F, E, G, B. E, G, K, L, M, N, O, O, P, R, C, Sh, T, U, W, Y. We talked about the differences between the English alphabet and the Yoruba alphabetical system. We talked about the differences and we explained the whys as well. We didn't just identify differences, we explained the whys. We then went into what? Combining letters, forming words. Combining words, forming phrases. Combining phrases, forming sentences. Then we went deeper into sentence formation and we started contextualizing the sentences as well. We started contextualizing the sentences as well, right? And then we went deeper into explaining the cultural aspect of it. So again, that's being consistency with the Yoruba scientific approach to everything. Our pre-colonial, systems of, everything is scientific. Everything has to be explained. You can't say it is so because it is so. No, why is it so? What made it so? Can we demonstrate it? Can we dissect it? And a lot of the numbers that we were talking, the letters and the words, we broke them down to what? To their etymology, didn't we? Okay, because I believe that somebody once you know the foundation of something, to then build on that foundation, it's a lot easier that way. We explain the numbers, the letters, the words at an etymological level. Okay, we broke it down that way so that you can understand the root words. And I've even made some declarations that a lot of people don't even know some root words. You may not even come across them in everyday in everyday conversation. But I explained that, but as a student, it's important that we learned the root words, right? The root meaning. Because once you know the root meaning, then you can play around with it. You can be dynamic in the way you apply them. Okay? So yeah, which brings me to the end of today's lecture. Okay? Thanks for everyone who's been with us today. Have you got anything else you want to add? Anything else you would like to ask?
No, I'm good, bro. But no, I appreciate the lesson.
Okay, so next week we've got a bonus module for next week, which will be more around a recap. It's going to be a short recap of everything we've learned throughout this Yoruba language, the foundation. Yoruba Language Foundation. Like I said, we've also got the intermediate as well as the advanced courses also available. So the next week's lecture is going to be in part a recap, like an overview of everything we've learned over the course of the 10 modules that we've dealt with so far, as well as a bit of a acknowledgement, a bit of a celebration, a bit of a what? A bit of an acknowledgement, a bit of a celebration. Just to go, so obviously we have to thank everybody who's been involved in this so far, acknowledge what we've learned so far, and obviously in hope that you will then continue to apply everything that we've studied so far, so that you can continue to apply it. The whole point of it is so that you would continue applying it. Language is funny. They need practice. You need to be able to use them. If you don't use them, it's easy to lose them, okay? So thank you very much for your time, Mr. Alkaline. Bàbá mi, Mr. Adébísí, ẹ ṣeun tẹ́ wà pẹ̀lú wa lónìí o. Èdùmàrè á wà pẹ̀lú ẹ̀yin náà. Ẹ kú àtàtàárọ̀, ẹ kú ìsinmi òní. Ire adé fún wa, ayọ̀ adé fún wa, inú wa dùn, ọkàn wa balẹ̀ o. So yeah, we'll be back the same time next week for the what? For the final module of the Yoruba Language Foundation level. Okay? So we'll be back. And then we'll do a quick recap on everything else that we've learned so far. And then hopefully we'll be able to get into a celebratory mood as well. Okay? So yeah, thanks to everyone. And then we'll wrap up here. I hope you all have enjoyable weekend. But based on the announcement I've made in the last couple of weeks, for those who are interested, we've added 2 additional courses to Yoruba Learning Academy, our offerings. We've added 2 additional courses. We've added business analysis and we've added project management. So from the second week of January, we are going to begin the business analysis and the project management teachings as well. So for those who are interested, get in contact and let's sign up for that. For those who are interested, please sign up. And then we'll go through that as I mentioned. So for the business analysis and the project management, there are 2 surprise elements through, you could say, bolt-ons or add-ons or benefits that we've added to those courses. We are teaching them in both English and Yoruba. A máa kọ́ àwọn ẹ̀kọ́ yẹn ní èdè wa àti èdè Gẹ̀ẹ́sì. Méjèèjì la máa gbé pọ̀ ní business analysis àti project management. So ìpèsè àkọ́kọ́ nìyẹn. Ìkejì, the second bonus is what? We've also enhanced those programs with AI, artificial intelligence. Everybody who understands the global the job markets today, particularly when it comes to pretty much all industries, AI is a big thing. So if you have an AI to go with whatever qualifications that you've got, it makes you a lot more competitive on the job market today, and they're paying big money for it. For those who are interested, consider that. Tell you what, I think from next week, Monday onwards, the brochure for those courses will be available on our website, yorubaronu.co.uk. yorubaronu.co.uk. The brochure will be available online. So people who are interested will be able to download the brochure to get the overview of the courses so that you understand how the courses, how they've been broken down. Okay, there are 10 to 12 week program study. There's an accelerated program offering available as well. For maybe some people they are already in those fields, but they don't have the AI experience, or some people they are in the process of applying for jobs in those fields. You want to get a job which deals with business analysis. You want to apply for a job which is about project management, and you're thinking, èmi fẹ́ sáré apply, èmi fẹ́ sáré bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí fi kíní ṣiṣẹ́. Ṣé ti yẹn bí fẹ́ sáré bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí fi àwọn ẹ̀kọ́ yìí ṣiṣẹ́ kí n máa fi jẹun. Èmi ò fẹ́ dúró fún 10 weeks kí n ká máa ṣe díẹ̀díẹ̀ fún 12 weeks. Èmi fẹ́ sáré kọ́ gbogbo kíní lẹ́ẹ̀kan náà bóyá ní ọjọ́ láàrin ọ̀sẹ̀ kan. So that's an accelerated program. Okay, you can get in contact with us. There is an accelerated program available. We can teach it in an accelerated way. Obviously, it's going to take each lecture is going to take longer, but we can condense it into what? Into a week in an advanced accelerated learning program as well. But for majority of students who are happy to just go through the experience of learning it in smaller chunks, it's a 12-week program for the business analysis and the project management. For those who are, maybe you are already in that field, you would like to add AI experience to what you already have, or you are in the process of applying for jobs in those fields, and you're thinking, you don't move, I drew from 10 weeks, 12 weeks. Mo fẹ́ sáré ṣe kínní, tí bá lè sáré ṣe kínní ní ọ̀sẹ̀ kan, kí n gba certificate, kí n gba confirmation. A lè ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ náà, but obviously ẹ máa ní láti kàn sí wa, àádẹ́bà yín ṣe, organize ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn, kó ba lè dá náà ni o. Ìrì adé ayọ̀ adé àríbá àṣẹ ń fẹ́ lágbára Èdùmàrè níṣe lásán o, àṣeyè àṣeyọrí àṣe ìṣẹ́gun ni a máa ṣe o. So a kí gbogbo ẹ̀yin àgbà tẹ́bà pẹ̀lú wa lónìí, lọ́kùnrin lóbìnrin, ní bàbá ní ìyá, àṣebájú nílọ, àṣebẹ̀ ẹ̀yin àgbààgbà, ẹ ṣeun fún ọjọ́ òní o. So yeah, àti ṣetán nìyẹn o. For people who have already registered with us, you will receive your course material shortly. Definitely by tomorrow, you'll be able to receive your course material. And tẹ́ bá dẹ̀ ní any questions náà, ẹ lè kàn sí wa. So àárí yín, ẹ ṣeun, adúpẹ́ o, ó dìgbà o. Ìgbà rẹ̀ bára pẹ̀tù, òjòjò tí dorí ìdébèrè, ọmọ ìkọ́nà wọn ò jẹ́ kí ẹ̀kún wọn la dégun. Ikú pẹja, ikú pẹyẹ, ikú pẹran. Gbọ́dọ̀ pa mí, ọmọ Parapẹ̀tù ni mò ń ṣe. Ìgbà rẹ̀ o, Ifá ológun, ó pọ̀ lẹ́yìn rẹ̀. Ifá mo pọ̀ lẹ́yìn rẹ̀, ẹ̀dá mo pọ̀ lẹ́yìn rẹ̀. Gidigidi gbà bí o ṣe o, gidigidi gbà bí o ṣe o. Ifá mo pọ̀ lẹ́yìn rẹ̀. When I use petrol, anything you use. Ọ̀pẹ̀lẹ̀ kò ní gbéra rẹ̀, kò gbéra rẹ̀ lọ lè wá. Adíyá fún Ọ̀rúnmìlà, bàbá lọ ìrìn àjò ọjọ́. Bàbá mú léńjẹ ọmọ àwo rẹ̀ lọ. Ikú lajá Ọ̀rúnmìlà lẹ́kùn. Ikú kò ní jọmọ lẹ́yìn ẹ̀kún pàjẹ́. Ikú ò lè rí mi lẹ́yìn rẹ̀ pàjẹ́. Ikú ò ní jọmọ lẹ́yìn ẹ̀kún pàjẹ́. Ikú ò lè rí mi lẹ́yìn rẹ̀ pàjẹ́. Mo pọ̀ lẹ́yìn rẹ̀, ẹ̀dá mo pọ̀ lẹ́yìn rẹ̀. Gidigidi gbà bí o ṣe o, gidigidi gbà bí o ṣe o. Ifá mo pọ̀ lẹ́yìn rẹ̀. Ifá mo pọ̀ lẹ́yìn rẹ̀. Okay, ẹ ṣe wo. There's too much of it. Ó dìgbà o. àtúrí yín ní ọ̀sẹ̀ tó ń bọ̀. Ìdùmarè aṣọ́wájú bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ lágbára Ìdùmarè. Eré adé ayọ̀ dé o, àjíǹde ara máa jẹ́ lágbára Ìdùmarè. Àní tójú oorun gbọ̀nà ọ̀run o lágbára Ìdùmarè. Àdẹ̀ ní tójú ojú àlá gba ìlera. Eré adé fún ayọ̀ adé fún wa o. Ìjọ abíjọ ayọ̀ abáyọ̀ o. So yeah, have a wonderful weekend everyone, and we'll catch you again next week. Ó dìgbà o. Ó dàbọ̀ o.